Hey man, the most dangerous man in the room is never the loudest, the angriest, or the one trying to prove something. It's the one who has already been broken and put himself back together without applause. The man who healed doesn't carry chaos in his voice or desperation in his eyes. He doesn't chase, doesn't beg, doesn't threaten. He observes, he listens, and because he's no longer bleeding, he's no longer predictable. That's what unsettles people. Not aggression, but calm that can't be manipulated. A healed man is dangerous because he's no longer reacting from wounds. He doesn't confuse intensity with love or attention with respect. He's seen what unchecked emotion can destroy, so he chooses clarity over impulse. Where others argue, he pauses. Where others cling, he steps back. And that restraint earned through pain is misunderstood as coldness by those who still live off emotional leverage. But it's not cold, it's control. And control terrifies anyone who once benefited from your confusion. What most people don't realize is that healing doesn't make you soft, it makes you precise. You stop over-explaining. You stop giving second chances to patterns that already proved who they were. You don't need to win arguments anymore, because you already won the war inside yourself. And when you don't need validation, people lose their grip on you. They can't provoke you into chasing. They can't bait you into defending yourself. You simply move differently now. The healed man is dangerous because he sees clearly. He can feel emotion without drowning in it. He can care without attachment, love without losing frame, walk away without hatred. He understands that peace is not passive, it's protected. So when someone tries to pull him back into chaos, he doesn't fight, he exits. That exit speaks louder than any confrontation ever could. Silence from a healed man isn't punishment, it's a boundary. This is why healed men are often mislabeled. They're called distant, guarded, emotionally unavailable. But the truth is simpler and more uncomfortable. They are emotionally disciplined. They no longer hand access to their inner world to anyone who asks. They require consistency, alignment, and effort, not promises, tears, or grand speeches. And because most people are used to manipulating through emotion, they interpret discipline as threat. A healed man doesn't fear abandonment because he's already survived it. He doesn't fear rejection because he's already rejected versions of himself that didn't serve him. He doesn't fear loneliness because he learned how loud peace can be. That independence rewrites every power dynamic. You can't control someone who doesn't need you to feel whole. And that's why the healed man changes rooms without saying a word, because the atmosphere shifts when he enters. What makes him truly dangerous is not what he does, but what he refuses to do. He refuses to chase clarity from confusion. He refuses to negotiate his standards for temporary comfort. He refuses to mistake chemistry for character. He refuses to rescue people from consequences they chose repeatedly. Those refusals cut deeper than insults because they expose reality. And reality is the one thing fantasy can't survive. People who thrive on chaos sense it immediately. They test him. They push buttons that used to work. They create emotional storms to see if he'll step into the old role. But the healed man doesn't take the bait. He watches patterns, not words. He notices inconsistencies without pointing them out. And when the pattern confirms itself, he leaves quietly without drama, without revenge, without explanation. That quiet departure echoes longer than any argument ever could. Healing gives a man something rare, self-trust. He doesn't outsource his worth to reactions or approval. He doesn't second-guess his intuition when something feels off. He listens, adjusts, and acts with intention. That self-trust makes manipulation ineffective, because manipulation relies on doubt. When doubt dies, control dies with it, and suddenly the healed man becomes a mirror, forcing others to confront themselves without saying a single word. This is why the most dangerous man is the one who healed, not because he wants power over others, but because no one has power over him. He doesn't need to dominate, prove, or perform. He builds quietly, chooses carefully, and walks away cleanly. And in a world addicted to emotional chaos, a man who is healed is not just rare, he's unstoppable. What separates this kind of man from everyone else is that he no longer moves from urgency. There is no rush in his decisions, no panic behind his silence, no anxiety driving his choices. He understands that anything meant for him won't require self-betrayal. So when pressure is applied, emotional pressure, social pressure, romantic pressure, he doesn't fold, he slows down, and that alone disarms people who are used to speeding others up to gain control. He's dangerous because he doesn't argue with illusions anymore. He doesn't try to convince anyone of his value, his intentions, or his truth. He lets people reveal themselves through behavior. He watches long enough for patterns to expose motives, And when the picture becomes clear, he doesn't announce his conclusion. He adjusts his presence. Less access, less energy, less investment. That withdrawal is felt deeply by those who expected endless availability. There was a time when confusion would have made him explain himself, when mixed signals would have made him try harder, when disrespect would have been tolerated in the name of potential. That version of him is gone, not killed by anger, but replaced by understanding. He now knows that anything requiring constant emotional labor to maintain is already unstable, so he stops watering dead soil. This is the man who no longer mistakes emotional volatility for passion. He's experienced enough to recognize that chaos creates addiction, not connection. He understands that intensity can feel like depth when it's really just instability in disguise. So when someone brings drama, inconsistency, or emotional whiplash into his space, he doesn't romanticize it. He recognizes it as a warning and responds accordingly. What unsettles people most is that he can walk away without needing closure. He doesn't need final conversations, emotional confessions, or last explanations. He already closed the loop internally. He already saw what needed to be seen, and because he doesn't leave with bitterness, his absence feels heavier. There's no anger to push against, no door to reopen, just a clean exit that forces reflection. This man doesn't fear losing people anymore. He fears losing alignment. He knows that peace is fragile and must be defended, so he's selective with who gets access to his time, his energy, and his inner world, not because he's arrogant, but because he's learned the cost of letting the wrong people get close. Every boundary he sets was paid for in experience. People used to leverage his empathy. They used guilt, emotional stories, and vulnerability as tools. That doesn't work now. He can listen without absorbing. He can care without compromising himself. He can empathize without sacrificing clarity. And when someone tries to manipulate through emotion, he notices the strategy instead of reacting to the feeling. That awareness makes him impossible to trap. He's dangerous because he no longer needs to be understood. Misinterpretation doesn't shake him. Being painted as the villain doesn't provoke defense. He knows that clarity inside matters more than reputation outside. So when narratives are twisted or intentions are questioned, he doesn't correct the story. He lets time do the work, because time always exposes what words try to hide. This man doesn't seek revenge, and that's exactly why his presence is powerful. He doesn't need others to suffer to feel justified. He simply removes himself from spaces that no longer respect him, and when he's gone, the contrast becomes obvious. His consistency is missed. His stability is felt. His absence becomes the consequence. That's the danger. Not destruction, but detachment. Not aggression, but self-mastery. Not domination, but unshakable grounding. A man like this doesn't need to raise his voice or flex control. He has already won the only battle that mattered, the one inside. And once that's done, the world has no leverage left. What makes him unsettling is how little he needs from others to stay steady. Praise doesn't inflate him. Criticism doesn't derail him. Silence doesn't make him anxious. He understands that most reactions are projections, not truths. So instead of absorbing emotional noise, he filters it. And when people realize their approval no longer fuels him, the dynamic collapses. You can't reward or punish someone who's already self-contained. He moves with a quiet certainty that comes from knowing his limits. He doesn't promise what he can't sustain. He doesn't offer access he can't protect. And because his word matches his behavior, trust becomes simple around him. That consistency exposes inconsistency in others, and exposure is uncomfortable. It forces a choice: rise to the standard or walk away. Many choose the latter and call it distance. This man understands leverage, not as manipulation, but as awareness. He knows that attention is currency, time is capital, and energy is finite, so he invests carefully. He doesn't pour into people who leak. He doesn't chase outcomes that require self-erasure. When the return isn't mutual, he reallocates without resentment. That reallocation is final, and finality is rare. He's no longer hypnotized by potential. He's learned that potential without action is just a story people tell to delay accountability. So he evaluates what is happening now, not what could happen later. He measures alignment in behavior, not intention. That realism keeps him from being dragged into cycles of hope and disappointment. It also makes his decisions decisive. People feel exposed around him because he doesn't mirror chaos back. When they escalate, he steadies. When they test, he observes. When they provoke, he disengages. There's no friction to feed on. And without friction, manipulation starves. The absence of reaction becomes a mirror that reflects motives back to their source. He doesn't need to be right, he needs to be aligned. So he lets arguments die on their own. He lets misunderstandings pass if they cost too much peace to correct. He knows that clarity doesn't require consensus, and because he doesn't argue for control, he keeps it. Power maintained quietly lasts longer than power demanded loudly. There's a patience to him now, earned, not naive. He can sit with uncertainty without forcing resolution. He can allow people to show themselves fully before he decides. This patience isn't hesitation, it's discernment. And discernment turns impulsive tactics ineffective. You can't rush someone who's comfortable waiting. What truly changes the game is his relationship with loss. He no longer treats endings as failures. He understands that removal can be protection and distance can be mercy. So when something ends, he doesn't scramble to repair what revealed itself as misaligned. He mourns briefly, learns deeply, and moves forward cleanly. This is why his boundaries feel absolute. They aren't emotional reactions drawn in anger. They're structural decisions built in calm. Once set, they don't wobble, and because they don't wobble, people either respect them or remove themselves. Both outcomes simplify life. In a world where most people are governed by impulse, a man governed by principle is disruptive. He changes dynamics without speeches, he ends games without playing them, and he builds a life that doesn't depend on volatility to feel alive. That's the real threat, someone who has nothing to prove and everything to protect. He no longer confuses familiarity with loyalty. Just because someone has been around for a long time doesn't mean they deserve permanent access. He's learned that time alone doesn't build trust. Behavior does. So when someone grows careless, entitled, or inconsistent, he notices the shift without dramatizing it, and instead of confronting every change, he responds by adjusting his presence. That adjustment speaks for him. This man understands emotional patterns, the way a strategist understands terrain. He sees where people escalate, where they withdraw, where they deflect responsibility, not to exploit it, but to avoid being pulled into it. He knows that many conflicts aren't misunderstandings, they're power plays disguised as emotions. And once you see that, you stop trying to fix things that were never broken, only revealing. He's especially dangerous to people who rely on confusion to stay relevant. When stories stop working, when guilt stops landing, when emotional reactions dry up, they feel exposed. They may accuse him of being detached or unfeeling, but what they're really reacting to is the loss of influence. Calm removes leverage from those who thrive on emotional turbulence. He doesn't mistake being needed for being valued anymore. Neediness is loud, value is quiet. So he steps away from dynamics where he's only appreciated when he's useful, available, or fixing something. He chooses reciprocity over dependency, and that choice rewires how people treat him, or reveals that they never intended to treat him well at all. This man is no longer intimidated by emotional displays. Tears, anger, affection, withdrawal. He can sit with all of it without abandoning his center. He understands that emotions can be sincere and still misdirected, so he acknowledges feelings without letting them dictate outcomes. That emotional literacy makes him difficult to sway and impossible to corner. He knows when to speak and when silence does more. Silence in his hands isn't avoidance, it's calibration. It creates space for truth to surface. It lets others fill the void with who they really are. And what people reveal when they think they're unobserved often says more than anything they'd admit directly. What's striking is how little he explains himself now. Explanation invites negotiation. Negotiation invites compromise, and he's done compromising on fundamentals. He believes that people who genuinely align don't need long justifications, they understand through action, so he saves his words and lets consistency do the talking. He's not driven by proving anyone wrong, he's driven by building something that doesn't collapse under pressure, so he invests in habits, routines, and values that compound quietly. While others chase stimulation, he builds stability. While others seek validation, he sharpens competence. That long-term focus separates him from the noise. This man understands that attraction, respect, and trust are not negotiated. They're observed. You don't demand them, you embody them. And when they're missing, you don't chase, you adjust. That adjustment is felt deeply because it's rooted in self-respect, not resentment. That's why his presence carries weight. Not because he dominates space, but because he doesn't leak energy into it. He's composed, intentional, and grounded, and in a world where most people are ruled by reaction, someone who chooses response over impulse becomes a force, steady, undeniable, and quietly untouchable. He has learned that not every truth needs to be spoken aloud. Some truths are better lived. When people expect reactions and get composure instead, it unsettles them. When they expect explanations and receive consistency instead, it confuses them. And when they expect access but meet distance, it forces them to reflect. That reflection is uncomfortable because it removes distractions and leaves them alone with themselves. This man no longer measures success by how much he is liked. He measures it by how little he betrays himself. He knows that approval is fleeting, but self-respect compounds. So when faced with choices that trade integrity for comfort, he chooses the harder path without announcing it. Quiet discipline shapes his days, and over time it reshapes his entire life. He understands the difference between connection and entanglement. Connection adds clarity. Entanglement drains it. So he avoids dynamics that require constant reassurance, emotional babysitting, or crisis management. Not because he lacks compassion, but because he values sustainability. He wants relationships that grow him, not ones that consume him. There's a steadiness in him that can't be rushed. He doesn't let urgency dictate decisions. He knows urgency is often manufactured to bypass judgment. So when pressure shows up, emotional ultimatums, forced timelines, dramatic turning points, he pauses. That pause exposes motives, and exposed motives make choices simple. He's dangerous to cycles. Cycles of drama, cycles of apology without change, cycles of hope followed by disappointment. He doesn't get trapped repeating the same lessons with different faces. Once a pattern is clear, he breaks it, cleanly, permanently, and breaking cycles removes him from environments designed to keep people stuck. This man doesn't need to control outcomes to feel secure. He controls his inputs, his effort, his standards, his response. That internal locus of control makes him resilient. He adapts without losing direction. He adjusts without losing identity. And that adaptability, anchored in principle, keeps him ahead of chaos. He's comfortable being misunderstood for a season. He knows clarity reveals itself over time. So he doesn't rush to correct narratives or defend intentions. He lets actions stack. He lets results speak. And eventually, the truth separates itself from the noise without him lifting a finger. What many don't realize is that his calm wasn't born calm. It was forged. Every measured response is the result of lessons learned the hard way. Every boundary is built on a moment where one should have existed earlier. That history gives weight to his choices. He doesn't improvise discipline. He practices it. He's no longer seduced by emotional peaks. He values emotional range, the ability to handle boredom, stress, and disagreement without imploding. He understands that depth is revealed in how people handle stability, not excitement. So he chooses environments and relationships that can withstand silence as well as celebration. And this is where his true power lies. He lives in alignment, whether anyone is watching or not. No audience, no performance, just coherence between values and behavior. In a world addicted to reaction, a man anchored in intention becomes rare, and rarity, when paired with discipline, changes everything. He's no longer impressed by words that aren't anchored in action. Promises sound empty to him now, not because he's cynical, but because he's observant. He's watched how easily language can be used to delay accountability. So he listens politely, nods calmly, and waits. Time always reveals whether intention has weight or whether it's just another performance. This man understands that emotional availability without structure leads to erosion. So he offers presence, not absorption. He shows care, not surrender. He can support without sacrificing direction. That balance is rare and unsettling because it removes the familiar script where someone is either distant or consumed. He exists outside that binary, and most people don't know how to engage with that. He's learned that respect grows in silence just as much as it does in effort. He doesn't crowd people to feel close. He gives space without disappearing. And in that space, others either rise into mutual responsibility or reveal their dependency. Either outcome gives him clarity, and clarity keeps him free. There's a confidence in him that doesn't need reinforcement. He doesn't scan rooms for approval. He doesn't adjust his values to fit the mood. He knows who he is when no one's clapping. That self-assurance is steady, not flashy. And because it's steady, it can't be shaken by comparison or competition. He's dangerous to manipulation because he recognizes timing tricks, sudden confessions, emotional collapses, or last-minute revelations don't rush him anymore. He understands that urgency is often used to bypass discernment, so he slows everything down. And when things slow down, truth struggles to keep its mask on. This man doesn't romanticize struggle in relationships. He knows growth involves effort, but chaos is not a prerequisite for depth. He's experienced enough to tell the difference. So when friction becomes a constant, he doesn't call it passion, he calls it misalignment, and he acts accordingly. He's no longer haunted by what-ifs. He understands that clarity comes from decisions, not speculation. Once he chooses a path, he commits to it fully, and if he walks away, he doesn't look back to reinterpret the past. He extracts the lesson and leaves the story where it belongs. People notice that he doesn't linger where he's not respected. There's no dramatic exit, no final speech, just a quiet withdrawal of effort. Conversations shorten, availability decreases, presence fades, and only then do others realize how much stability he was providing without asking for credit. This man has made peace with the fact that not everyone will understand his boundaries. He doesn't need them to. He knows that boundaries aren't walls, they're filters. They don't keep people out. They reveal who belongs, and once that's revealed, his path becomes lighter. In the end, what makes him truly formidable is that he no longer seeks to be chosen, he's already chosen himself. That self-selection removes desperation, removes fear, removes urgency, and when a man stands firmly in that place, he doesn't need to convince the world of anything. The world adjusts around him. He understands that attention is powerful, not because it's loud but because it's selective. He doesn't give it away reflexively, he offers it with intention. And when his attention shifts or disappears, it's not to provoke a reaction, it's because something no longer aligns. That quiet withdrawal forces people to confront a rare discomfort, the loss of influence without explanation. This man no longer carries emotional debt. He doesn't owe anyone access, reassurance, or tolerance simply because of history. He's learned that shared time doesn't equal shared values, so he honors the past without being imprisoned by it. Gratitude exists, but obligation does not. That distinction keeps him light on his feet and clear in his direction. He's dangerous to emotional games because he refuses to play roles. He won't become the fixer, the savior, the villain, or the punching bag. He stays himself regardless of the script offered, and when someone can't assign you a role, they lose control of the narrative. That loss unsettles people who rely on predictable dynamics to feel secure. He doesn't rush intimacy anymore. He understands that closeness without discernment creates confusion, so he allows connection to unfold at a pace that reveals character. He watches how people behave when things are calm, not just when emotions are high. And if someone can't sustain consistency, he notices early, long before attachment clouds judgment. There's a discipline in how he manages disappointment. He doesn't explode or suppress it. He processes it, learns from it, and adjusts. That emotional maturity means setbacks don't knock him off course. They refine his standards, and refined standards shape a life that feels stable instead of reactive. This man knows that real strength doesn't announce itself. It shows up in follow-through, in patience, in restraint. He doesn't need to dominate conversations or assert authority to feel powerful. His authority comes from alignment between thought, word, and action. That coherence is felt, not argued. He's immune to the temptation of being understood at the cost of being honest. He would rather be accurate than agreeable. So when truth creates distance, he lets it. He knows that proximity built on self-censorship always collapses eventually, and he refuses to build on foundations that require him to disappear. People sense that he won't tolerate erosion. Small compromises that once went unnoticed now register immediately. Disrespect doesn't need to be dramatic to be disqualifying. Subtle shifts matter, tone matters, consistency matters, and because he pays attention, he corrects course early before resentment has time to grow. He's no longer surprised when others project their unresolved issues onto him. He recognizes it as displacement, not truth, so he doesn't internalize accusations that don't align with his actions. He stays rooted in self-awareness, and self-awareness makes external judgment less potent. Ultimately, this man moves through the world with a quiet finality. Decisions are made once, not revisited endlessly. Energy flows where alignment exists. Where it doesn't, it stops. There's no bitterness in that, only clarity. And clarity, once earned, becomes a form of freedom few people ever experience. He has learned that peace is not something you stumble into, it's something you defend daily. So he guards his mornings, his routines, his inner dialogue. He doesn't let other people's chaos spill into his mind unchecked. When disruption appears, he contains it, and containment, practiced consistently, turns stability into a habit rather than a temporary state. This man doesn't confuse kindness with accessibility. He can be respectful without being reachable at all times. He understands that constant availability erodes value, not because of scarcity games, but because boundaries signal self-respect, and self-respect sets the tone for how others engage with him. He notices how people respond when he doesn't rescue them, when he doesn't rush in to fix discomfort, when he lets consequences unfold naturally. Some grow, some resent him, but either way, the truth surfaces. Growth reveals compatibility, resentment reveals entitlement. Both save him time. He no longer seeks emotional intensity to feel alive. His life has rhythm, not spikes. Purpose replaces adrenaline. Direction replaces distraction. So when someone tries to pull him into unnecessary drama, it feels foreign, like noise interrupting a signal, and he chooses signal every time. This man doesn't argue for respect. He behaves in a way that invites it. And when it's not given, he doesn't negotiate, he disengages. That disengagement isn't punishment, it's alignment. He simply moves where effort and regard are mutual. He understands that attraction often increases in his absence, but he doesn't use that knowledge to manipulate. He doesn't disappear to provoke longing. He disappears when presence no longer makes sense. The difference is intention. One is a tactic, the other is self-honesty. He's comfortable letting people miss him. He doesn't rush to fill gaps or soothe discomfort that isn't his responsibility. He knows that absence can teach lessons, presence never could, and those lessons are often necessary for clarity on both sides. There's a humility in him now, not the kind that shrinks, but the kind that sees clearly. He knows he's not perfect, he knows he still learns, but he also knows he's no longer lost. That grounded self-knowledge keeps arrogance and insecurity equally distant. This man understands that loyalty to self comes before loyalty to connection. Without that order, everything collapses. So when loyalty demands self-betrayal, he chooses himself without apology. That choice is quiet, firm, and irreversible. And that's why his presence lingers even when he's gone. Not because he was dramatic or unforgettable, but because he was stable. Because he brought order where there was confusion. And once someone experiences that level of groundedness, chaos never feels the same again. He no longer feels the need to announce growth or explain how far he's come. His life speaks for itself. The way he handles pressure, the way he exits disrespect, the way he stays composed when others unravel, these things reveal more than words ever could. And because he doesn't broadcast his transformation, it feels even more undeniable. This man understands that most people don't change, they adapt temporarily. So he waits. He observes consistency over time. Apologies don't impress him unless behavior follows. Emotional speeches don't sway him unless patterns shift. That patience filters out those who only perform growth when they feel threatened. He's dangerous to false intimacy. Oversharing, trauma bonding, instant closeness, none of it hooks him anymore. He knows that depth is built through trust earned slowly, not emotions dumped quickly. So when someone tries to fast-track closeness, he slows the pace. And slowing the pace reveals intentions. He doesn't confuse being calm with being passive. Calm is a choice, and behind that calm is the willingness to act decisively when necessary. People sense this. They know that if a line is crossed, there won't be a warning speech, just a consequence. That certainty commands respect without demanding it. This man has learned that you don't teach people how to treat you. You show them what you tolerate, and what he tolerates now is very little. Not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. He's seen the cost of small compromises stacked over time, and he refuses to pay it again. He's no longer afraid of starting over. Starting over doesn't scare someone who rebuilt themselves once already. So when situations stagnate or environments decay, he leaves without panic. He trusts his ability to build again. Better, cleaner, stronger. There's a quiet confidence in how he moves through endings. No dramatic closure, no emotional bargaining, just acceptance and forward motion. He understands that endings don't erase value, they clarify direction, and clarity always beats familiarity. He doesn't seek to be irreplaceable in anyone's life. He knows that trying to secure a permanent role leads to compromise. Instead, he focuses on being aligned. If he's replaced, he lets it happen. Replacement doesn't diminish him, it reveals where he never truly belonged. This man doesn't chase peace, it follows him. Because peace is a byproduct of alignment, not effort. The more he lives in accordance with his values, the less friction he encounters, and when friction does appear, he handles it without losing himself. By now, it's clear why a man like this shifts every room he enters, not through dominance, not through intimidation, but through stability. In a world addicted to reaction, stability feels radical, and anything radical disrupts old patterns simply by existing.